afternoon, and welcome to the Innermost Podcast, where we explore, acknowledge, set right, and show gratitude for our deepest, most private, inward thoughts, emotions, and experiences. As always, you can write to the show anonymously and share your thoughts, experiences, and or stories that you would like to share on the podcast. I am your host, K-Joy, and welcome to the Innermost. It is really Monday evening, and I have somewhat failed you because my promise and brand was to have your Monday morning motivations. And honestly, I just didn't feel that motivated this Monday morning. I have had such a busy weekend, and I just was trying to be diligent to the things that are required of me in my everyday life, get into work and things of that nature. But recording has been on my mind. I like to, keep it. This is the reason for the name of the show, The Innermost. And so it is pretty much a work, and hopefully eventually we will see it become a work of art to really hone into those innermost thoughts where I can't just brand it, but I have to find a way to display it. And so there are times where I'm reluctant to record unless I really feel like I'm level and I'm centered enough to really just pull away at things and expose my innermost thoughts and my innermost emotions and experiences. So today is an interesting show because I've had an exhausting day, to say the least, and a completely exhausting day. And it's interesting because the topic that we will discuss today, it really is in line with some of the topics mentioned on other episodes. So hopefully you will enjoy what this show will bring to you today. But first, I just kind of want to level out and do as we normally do and do a earth check, a self check, a life check. And interesting, last night I had an appointment with my hairstylist, and she does such a wonderful job. But what makes it so impactful to go to her is that, over the years I have encountered many different stylists and people, and one of the things about trying to be authentic, or I won't say trying to, because when you're authentic, you're just authentic, but living life in authenticity is that you can only really mesh with others that live their life in that same way or in that character. And, over my experience in lifetime, even from a little girl, growing up, I always had different experiences. My mom had such a hard time finding someone to do my hair because I've had such thick. It's so funny that I'm talking about this because the topic, our innermost topic, our most vulnerable topic today that we will discuss is actually directly in line with what I'm saying. So funny how that kind of goes together. It wasn't even intentional. But growing up, I had like really thick, long hair, and my mom always had trouble finding someone to do my hair that would actually care for it and love it and respect it. And so many times she would run into different as they called it back in the 90s, hairdressers, and they would just kind of try to convince her to put a perm in my hair or cut it or do something because they did not want to deal with it or to do it. They did not want to spend the time to care for it and put the energy into it because it was just so thick and took so much time and took so much commitment. And so it's funny that growing up between that experience and this idea of, in American society, especially dealing within our own race and culture, colorism, and this idea back in the day of good hair and bad hair, and this self-hatred that goes on within the Black community, I had adapted a frustration and an annoyance for my hair. This is so interesting. I feel like I'm preaching. I feel like I'm preaching. You know what I mean? I know this is just regular conversation, but I feel like I'm about to put together a ride for you all, an adventure, right? A cultural experience, which is, I love to create. I love to be an artist, and I can't draw for stuff. I can't draw for ish. I can't sing for crap, even though I love music and I love the arts. But what I am is a creator, and I love to write, and I love to tell stories, and I love to write stories, and I love to I'm finding that in my teaching, I love to take people on a journey. So go with me. So over time, I adapted this frustration, and I'm gonna take my time with this, because this is why I love doing this podcast, because it gives me a positive, safe, nurturing outlet for my innermost thoughts. And I hope that it helps to guide whatever listeners to explore their innermost thoughts in a positive manner. So let me grab some water. Hold on a second. We're going to take our time with this, as they say in the old Baptist church. We're going to take our time with this. Over time, I developed this annoyance and this frustration with my natural hair, because in a sense, through my experiences, I was programmed to believe that my hair was a burden. Wow, I can cry just telling this story, because I can just imagine so many people who might even share this story. I started to develop this perception that my hair was a burden, that it was too much for even the professionals to deal with. And so, as beautiful and as thick and as gorgeous as it was, I started to disconnect myself from my very own, what God created and had given and blessed me with, my very own hair that other people would be like, oh, I wish I had, thick hair or anything like that. I started to have a frustration and annoyance. And it's funny because within the culture, oh gosh, you think we go through it with racism outside of the culture, the prejudice, and the colorism, the self-hatred that goes on with inside of the culture is just as, in a whole different way, heavy, if not more, because it's internal and there's nowhere else to turn. Damaging. Just completely damaging. So growing up, what happened was, when I became an adult, I went through these stages of, the big chop, which is, when you cut off any chemicals or anything out your hair and you allow your hair to grow out naturally. Well, it is such a process, especially with thick. And now they have even like these labels that are, back in the day, we didn't know what a 4C, 3C, and, classified different strands were. And now they have all these classifications and stuff. We called it nappy, straight, good, bad, and all these things, right? That's what culturally it was called. So if you were considered to have quote unquote bad hair, or in essence it wasn't bad hair, it was thick and it took time to take care of it, but people became frustrated with it and either chopped it off or pressed the shit out of it with grease, right? Straight burning it out. That just this internal lack of self-hatred hate because society did not accept who you were. And it's funny because in the media, what was only acceptable for so many years, probably up until the last few years where there's more information coming out, would be that a black woman had to be extremely light skinned and have some type of wig or weave. Her natural hair was unacceptable. Okay. So, this was the growing up and the raising and the things that you didn't even realize that impacted your personal experience and your perception of self. As I got older, I've always loved natural hair. My natural hair. I've always loved my natural hair. And so, if you don't understand what that is, the just straight out natural water, whatever, you know what I mean? The natural hairstyles, all those things. I hated getting my hair pressed out. I hate it. My mom would press my hair out and I go put water in it. And she threatened, like, girl, because it took so long. Woo! But that was required back then because that's what made black women acceptable, is that they had to have straight hair that was decent, that was acceptable to society, that looked like white women, so that we can be acceptable, because we were understood, or we were accepted for who we were. As I grew older and I experienced locks and different things of that nature, and started to learn more about everything, every aspect, what influenced my thoughts, what influenced my thoughts of my self-perception, my thoughts of my own hair. I was the only girl in a house full of guys. They were highly influenced by that culture and what was considered to be a beautiful woman or a beautiful black woman. The pressure was thick and strong, right? I started to develop my own identity. And it's so funny because I married a man who absolutely loved every aspect of the journey that I've taken with, big chops and natural hair and all the different things. And now I'm in this place of, I told who I was speaking of earlier, whom I love so dearly, getting back to her, is my hairstylist. I told her, I said, I've cut my hair off like so many years back to back. I said, you know what? I'm not going to cut it anymore. I said, I am going to just full out care for it and let it grow and take this journey of not cutting my hair. And it was just so wonderful because she made me feel so safe, because she was just like, let's do it. Like, I got you. And that's something I had never had from a hairstylist before. Just growing up, it was just always frustration. Like, I don't want to deal with this. This takes too much time. Or, somewhat, they might charge somebody a certain amount, but for me, it's extra because it's like, ooh, we got to deal with that. It's a lot. And she made me feel so taken care of and so welcome and so safe. And just like our spirits connected. And that's really important to me, because it's been many, many, many years since I've allowed someone to do my hair. I had decided, like, nope, no more. I'll do it. I'll take care of it, because nobody can love me like I love me. But I've just really been on this journey of trying to find my people. And it's so interesting that my people are starting to appear in so many different forms, so many different talents, so many different cultural, racial backgrounds, fields of study. And I am just like, it's something that I really need right now, because I had came to a place where I really wondered, like, thank the Lord that my faith is strong and that I really have a deep desire and love for the Lord. But I had come to this place where when it comes to the natural things in life, I was just done with humanity. Like, there is no room for me. I don't fit in here, and I don't want to be here. And that's a lot for a person to say and experience. And the more that I decided to not only grow and develop personally, but start to release and prune away from those things, those people, those relationships that were not serving or were not giving, or were completely dead and drawing from the roots of my soul and draining me. When I started to allow those things to grow, wow, the fruit that has just started to blossom in my life, and it comes in so many forms, and I'm so grateful. So I know that was a long introduction. I do want to kind of go into a couple other things. I mentioned, just finding your people and a hairdresser. I know this was the first official week that just passed of the start of the NFL season. So we love football around here, college football. I really wanted to have my husband on the show with me today. Because I just had such a tough day, and he is really like he's my bestie. He's my anchor. And it's funny because he really got on my nerves this morning. I was really annoyed with him because I was annoyed with my husband, but I wanted to sit with my best friend on the podcast today. So if that makes sense, like, I'm just like, you as a husband, I'm annoyed right now. But let me just have the best friend part of you. I'll take that. That's enough for today. But of course, Aaron Rodgers is playing right now, and I love me some Aaron Rodgers. That is my favorite quarterback, and I'm hoping that he, has a good season and ends his career well whenever he decides to. But he was just like, right now, Aaron Rodgers play, and that's fine. Like, I'm not even mad at him because I get it. Matter of fact, I have the game on right now on mute, so touchdown Jets. So yes, go ahead, Breece Hall. So definitely, yes, so NFL season just started. On a whim, let me tell y'all, this is crazy. So in my frustration, and sometimes work is so hard and things get tough, I came home the other night, a few nights ago, and I was just like, I just can't live this life right now without some kind of outlet. I was like, I need something else. Like, I need something to just take my mind off of work. And I just started school and, momming and wifing and all the things. So I created a fantasy football league. I created a fantasy football league. I absolutely did. And you know what? I'm so glad that I did, because I didn't realize how many other people felt the same way. Like, so many other people were like, oh my God, I'm so glad you created this league. I don't even know what to do, but I need an outlet and this sounds fun. And then they went from that to like, we need to put money on it. And it just became this thing. We had an online draft, and it is a much needed outlet. Super looking forward to it. And of course, we started a little bit late, so our hours will start on week 2, but it's great. I'm looking forward to it. What else? Let's see. Beetlejuice came out on the 6th, and you know what? I think it's killing the box office right now. Let me see. Am I reading this right? It's September the 9th, and the total gross right now I'm looking at is $111 million. So, wow. Am I looking at that right? That's incredible. I don't know. Warner Brothers. I like Beetlejuice. I was kind of reluctant to go see it just because I don't know. Remakes sometimes I just don't know. But the top 10 of the box office right now, I'm showing Beetlejuice, Deadpool and Wolverine's, Reagan, Alien, It Ends With Us, The Forge, Twisters, Blink Twice, and Despicable Me 4. And number 10 is The Front Room. So that's our box office. All right, and so here's some other news. Goodness, I'm so glad I didn't miss this. How about our first political presidential candidates debate tomorrow, Tuesday, September the 10th. So how interesting. Debate coming up tomorrow. I'm not sure what time it comes on. Let's see if I can find what time. I think they usually try to do it. Yep, I was thinking 8 p.m. Central Standard. Yeah, so they try to do it around the time when people are like at home and getting off of work and things of that nature. So that is pretty much the most new radical happenings. I think Colorado got slaughtered this weekend. So I don't know. What do y'all think? Deion Sanders gonna get fired? I have no idea. USC, I probably mentioned this on the other one. USC beat LSU. What a game. So many different things. I think, well, don't we have the Winter Olympics coming up? Something like that. So plenty of things happening in life. Plenty of things to be entertained by and appreciate. I haven't taken the time to see any good TV shows that are happening. Our fall autumn equinox is scheduled for September the 22nd at around, I think, 8:44 a.m. in the morning in California. So that will be the start of our fall season. Super looking forward to it. Love all things fall. And I can't wait. I feel like I need to go buy some candles, some fall candles. I'm ready to light the fireplace. I'm ready to open the windows and get that cool breeze. I'm ready for it all. Okay. Well, let me see. I do want to get into my experience today. But before I get into my experience today, I started my doctorate program, and day one went really well. It was very interesting. Lots and lots of information. I think, like, being in different spaces, my takeaways are usually like impactful moments. And although, like, the whole situation is impactful itself, right? Like, it's a lot. That's a big deal. It's pretty cool, pretty awesome. But one memorable thing that happened that day was I ended up talking to a woman in my cohort, and she is from South Africa. And we started to, I don't even know what came of, but she started to talk to me and talk about her experience coming to America and how it's completely different in South Africa, and how when she came to America, she had to learn how to be black, because out there is no black in South Africa. They don't consider people like black. There's no black or, classification like that of any sort. So she had to learn what it was to be black in America and engulf herself into the culture. Okay. Also, she expressed that, it was interesting that she did not realize that from her perspective, African Americans didn't like Africans. And I'm listening to her story, and this is what's so cool about being around intellectuals is you get to have, sorry, drinking water. You get to have these very different conversations and really, grow and really, what do I want to say? Expand your mind and understand perspectives and experiences. And that type of thing does not happen when you only stay in places of, communities that are only like you, or people who are only like you, only from your social or economical or academic class, right? Like those experiences won't happen unless you get out and mingle and get around other minds and people who have had different experiences. So I listened to her story, and we started to talk, and I began to tell her a little bit about my experience and my family's experience and what would be considered, or what America would consider, like the Black experience. And wow, she was just blown away, because she had no idea the history and the trauma that was attached to this classification that she was forced to take on just because of her skin color. Something that she wasn't even aware of just because of her skin color. And so I say all that to say, now, not to mention that another lady who was in there, I could just tell, like, she gonna be my buddy. She was talking about her genealogy, and I think she mentioned she's like 41% Native American, and, you know, all of these different mixtures of things, as we say. And she was just blown away by hearing the two of us talk, myself and the lady from South Africa. And she was like, oh my God, like, I never would have known any of this. She was like, this is something that I never would have even imagined was a thing. Like, she was like, this is what I'm talking about. People really don't know. They don't understand. They don't understand different people and different culture and people of different races experiences. And so therefore they pass a judgment on your, so to speak, aggression, or, you know, we get that a lot in our community, like, they're so aggressive. And she's like, if you had to always be aware of yourself and conduct yourself a certain way, you'll feel aggressive too. And when she said that, it made me think of, if you ever have like a pet, I can't talk, I've been talking all day, teaching all day. Specifically, in my case, my experiences with dogs, and I imagine this is true for most animals, because animals will tell you the truth. They will, based on how you treat them, based on how you make them feel, your energy, your approach, an animal will let you know who you are, right? If they feel threatened or anything like that. And it made me think of that, not comparing us to animals or dogs, but it's important that we pay attention to the living things that surround us, because we can learn. And it made me think about the fact that if you have, in my case, when I'm speaking of a dog that doesn't feel a part of the pack, that he doesn't feel, or the dog doesn't feel a part of the family, or has endured some type of abuse, or doesn't trust who it's with, that dog is going to be aggressive, uncomfortable, not sleep with his belly exposed, like different things, right? And so it just made me think of, like, you know, we can understand that on the level of animals, but we can't understand that on the level of humans, right? Human beings. So that conversation happened, and it was so cool, because I appreciate deep, impactful moments. We can live this life, and we can dress things up, and we could put on facades, and we can only, you know, look to have this appearance that everything is good and everything is great. But the reality is, we are all living a human experience. And human experiences comes with ups and downs, trials and triumphs, and so many different things. And we have been conditioned to ignore the human experience and put on a face of everything great is great and okay, because to make everyone around you feel good. Well, I feel best when I'm around people who are aware and authentic enough to be real and to we can cut cake and still, discuss the real things. And it doesn't have to be always the heavy innermost things, because it gets exhausting. But at least I know that this person is leveled enough in their mind that if they need to go there, that they can do it from a genuine and even keel place, a even mind, right? So I mentioned that because, the greatest experience in that class could have been the fact that I was there, and I could have been hung up on the opportunity and the name that I could gather from this experience. But I'm not looking for a name or a title. I'm looking to be changed. I'm looking to be amongst people who are changing and experience and being impacted. That the title is a representation of experience and not a representation of vanity. Okay? Wow, that in itself, right? Like, how many times do, you run into people who they live underneath these titles, and there's no substance to them as a person, right? They live under the titles, but there's no substance to their name. I don't know. Let's sit with that for a minute. So here I am. It's 5:53 now, p.m. in the evening, Pacific Standard Time. And I have been up since about 4:30 a.m. I have worked. I have a slight headache. I'm tired. I have only greeted my children. I have not made dinner. I am here expressing myself, and I've had such an exhausting experience today. I came home completely just exhausted and not defeated, but disappointed. Because, as I mentioned, I got my hair done yesterday, and I changed my hair, as we do. One of the things that is, as everyone knows now, that within our culture, Black culture and community, is, we don't play about, getting our hair done. Like, that's a thing. That's a part of, different people have things that are part of their culture. That's a part of us. And I go to work today, and here I am, exhausted with being Black. Right? That's the experience. This is essentially the baggage that we have to carry home. Because as I'm working, we don't get, wow, you look beautiful. I love your hair. It looks great. We get nitpicked and picked apart, and it's like there's no way that you can just be great. I need to figure out what is making you great. That's the feeling that you get when somebody is picking apart essentially your appearance. Okay. And this is something I don't think that other people realize how heavy this is, right? It's one thing to go to work. Everyone goes to work and they come home exhausted. But for the Black experience, we go to work, we work hard, and then we actually have to be analyzed and have to weed through these other experiences that only happen because of the color of our skin. Which is crazy, because it's 2024, and still in America we are being looked at as if we're foreign, as if we're not a part of the fabric of this country, as if we're not natives here, as if this is not a part of, that we're not deeply a part of this land and the makeup of this country. It's incredible, and it's exhausting. And here's the thing, my colleague, whom I really like, whom I really get along with, whom I laugh with and have, we have meetings and things with. In that moment, in my experience with her today, I was exhausted because I got to see although this is a person that on other occasions I'm fond of, her heart was revealed. And I don't think it was intentionally, but it was exhausting for me, and it was revealed. And so we were out, and our group, our students, we had to take our classes together to go to the pool. And I'm sitting there with her, 2 teachers, and she looks at me and she says, "So is that like a weave?" And mind you, just as I just said, 2 teachers out at the pool taking our kids to their swim day, and she stops and she looks at me and says, is that a weave?" This is about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So that means I haven't talked to you, I've seen you all day. We've worked together, but we haven't had a conversation. So this is something, I don't know, is it something on your mind or whatever? So immediately I look at her. I'm not a liar or a sugarcoater, and I don't owe anybody any I can't even, I'm so tired, I can't even think of the name. Explanation. I don't owe anyone an explanation. And I also don't want to be nasty or take pride, but I'm also learning that I'm not here to protect other people's feelings anymore. Like, that's a boundary that I'm starting to put up. That's something that I'm learning. For so long, I people please, and I'm not here anymore for it. And so when she said that, I said, "It is." And she responds and says, "Oh, wow, I just couldn't imagine. It's just too high for that. I could never." And I said, "Well, actually, this would be considered a protective style." And I said, because for our hair, it takes a lot of maintenance. And she was like, "Oh, okay. So, I had a friend who was at another school, and she would always pat her hair like this because she had a weave." And she started to laugh. She was like, I was just like, "Girl, won't you just take it out?" And so I'm listening to her literally try to, I don't know if she realized it or not, or even if she realized that what she was saying was a display of privilege. And I'm listening to her attempt to pick apart my image, right? And just keep going. And I'm listening to her, and she looks at the only black girl, which happened to be my student, in the pool. And she looks at her and she says, "So it's her," sorry, my Alexa is going off right now. She looks at this little girl. Okay, Alexa, stop. Sorry. She looks at this little girl and she says, "So, is her hair okay?" Now, here are several little girls in the pool. I mean, like 2 classes of girls in the pool. 1 black girl in the pool. She looks at her and says, "So is her hair okay?" As if I'm supposed to just know who she's speaking of, which I did because she knew what she was doing. And I looked and I'm like, of course. Like, why wouldn't it be? Like, what do you mean? What are you insinuating? What are you saying? Right? This is exhausting. It's 105 degrees right now. And so in my mind, I just know that she is not going to stop, because for some reason, people who do this, they continue and it's almost like a train wreck. And so I already know she's not going to stop. So she goes on and she's like, I know some people, might not like being asked that. I said, well, yeah, it's considered offensive. She was like, but if you don't know, how do you, like, if you don't know, you have to ask to learn. I said, I get that. I said, but here's the thing. I said, the problem is, it's 2024 and people are still asking questions about black people and black women as if we're new species or as if we're new to this land and you don't understand our culture. I said, that's what makes it exhausting, is that even now in 2024, I'm being asked about my hair. And she goes on and says, Yeah, and it's because everything has been so whitewashed, and she goes on and she talks, and she's dangling on a line because she's going back and forth, which means she's using the situation to an advantage, and continues and says, I mean, like for me, for example, I just learned what white privilege was about 5 years ago. And I say, exactly. So imagine living in a country where people are acting out in ways and carrying themselves in ways, and they don't even know what white privilege is, but you're experiencing and being the getting the brunt basically of that privilege because a person doesn't realize what they're carrying, and in essence in this conversation still doesn't realize that this is a part of the privilege, that I am exhausted as a person, as a professional, as a human being, having to sit there and be self-analyzed by what is supposed to be a peer of mine. You are using your privilege and you don't even realize it. And this is what I would hope people realize. Like I told her, I said, at the end of the day, the Black experience is so exhausting. I said, I talked to my husband about this, and we talk about how after we work, like everybody works and they goes home tired. We work, we go home tired, and then we're extra exhausted because we are now having to deal with those traumatic experiences that nitpick at who we are and the color of our skin as people. And she sits there and she says, and she listens, and she says, I didn't think of it like that. Well, what is your political position? And continues, right? What is your political position? Like, are you for Trump? And this thing continues. And I say to her that, at the end of the day, there is nothing about you that someone is nitpicking at you as a person. But the only way that I can help explain the feeling of this is other cultures and races of people carry something that people who are uncultured and people who, in this case, what I'm talking about, live and act out in white privilege, they have something of other people that they can call out, right? Maybe for Black women, it's your hair and different things. Maybe for a person of another race, it's your language or your accent or whatever the case may be, like something that I can try to pick apart on you. But what is interesting and not realized is that because for white America, they are considered the standard or the norm. There is no one picking apart at your hair or your accent or your, I remember when I was a little girl in sixth grade, I said leg, and one of my friends at the time, she said it's leg, you're pronouncing it wrong. And I just really couldn't understand that, right? No one is picking apart your speech, your anything, because you are considered the standard. But here is the sad, not even the sad, here is the cold reality. The one thing that you carry that we don't, you are the image of American history. And people still have the grace to look at you and not pick apart you as a person by calling you out and saying, so in your families, do you discuss racism? Do you guys pass that down? Did you have slave masters in your family? You understand what I'm saying? No one is doing that essentially. And when the discussion started to happen in America to prove these things, there was an uproar. And yet these are the type of things that not just Black women of color in general experience on a daily basis in careers where people don't understand. And as an educator, I was so saddened because this teacher referred to our students saying that's why I want them to learn in terms of when we're talking about political, how to be citizens and this, that, and the other thing. But how can we teach someone how to carry ourselves when we're unlearned? And don't get me wrong, as exhausting as this experience was, I don't have hatred or anything towards this person, right? This is my colleague. I've had great moments with this person. I'm disappointed. I'm exhausted. And yes, these conversations need to happen, but we don't have to be the educators. We don't have to be picked apart to fill the gaps of your life. That if you truly want to learn, that information is there, and it is not my job to teach you that. And it's funny because I always try to be cognizant of that, because as a person and lover of Latino culture, I love, I've always desired to learn Spanish and different things. I even have reservations of asking questions about, the language and learning it, because I know my experience, that I don't want to put that on somebody else where they feel picked apart, where they feel like, am I only in conversation with this person to kind of piggyback or to have dibs on their experience? When I get in a room with people who are my people, you just my people. You understand what I'm saying? Until you do something to show me that you're not my people, you're my people. We can laugh, whatever your background is. Man, one of the sweetest and coolest one of my friends, okay? And we have the most fun conversation. Super white. And I'm super black, because I tell her I have ghetto moments, but it's respectful, and it's an understanding, and it's a love, because I don't have to explain myself. I could just be myself. I said all that to say that we touched a lot of ground today, right? Starting with my experience with hairdresser and hairstylists growing up, with the inner and the inside experiences in black culture, and the outside pressures, talking to the lady who's from South Africa, and the different conversations, and then my experience with my colleague. There's so much work to be done, and we wonder why there's such a political uproar right now in America, because for so many years, these conversations have been pushed to the side and put on the background. People just don't want to hear it, because we have been inclined to ignore our innermost thoughts and experiences, and expose those things that we're afraid to deal with, and deem them as negative. So now we're behind the ball, we're behind the mark, and these things are no longer acceptable, because it's exhausting, and we cannot move forward if we're stuck on this. It is in the evening time. I'm home with my family, and I'm still affected by this conversation. How can we get better? Why are we here? Why are we here in 2024? I purposely wanted to live on the side of town that I'm on, in the neighborhood that I'm in, because I wanted my kids, when they walked outside, when they saw their neighbors, when they went to the local stores, they had a full cultural experience. People of different races and backgrounds. Our neighbors are bringing us plates, and we're taking them plates of our cultural food, and they're bringing us their cultural food, and there's a love in our community. Whereas before, when I came off the other side of town, neighbors wouldn't even speak to each other. They look at you like, why is this person in the neighborhood? Or we're all about our career. And for so long, that has been acceptable. But yeah, we put these things first, and we put away the human experience. At the end of the day, the human experience should be cared for the most. We should be taking care of each other the most, no matter what your background, your understanding, your religious beliefs are. The human being should be cared for. It should be our highest priority. Human beings. Because if we can't respect each other and ourselves, how can we take care of this earth? How can we take care of the animals and nature and respect it when we can't even respect that we come from, we're part of the earth, that we are a part of this thing. And I don't know, these are just my today, I can't apologize, because this is why I love this place so much, because this is a place where I can express my deepest, most private, inward thoughts, emotions, and experiences. And I'm so grateful to have a safe place for that. Well, with that being said, I hope that there was something at least that, if you at least don't agree on it, you can think about it and have something to prove more of the reason you don't agree, and that's fine. But I thank you so much for taking your valuable time to hang out with me, to address some of the thoughts and opinions that most often only reside in the innermost. It has been a wonderful pleasure to host you. I look forward to receiving your stories, exchanging experiences in our community at the Innermost Podcast at gmail.com, or you can join or follow at the Innermost Podcast on Instagram. I hope you find enough motivation this Monday to carry you through the week. Take care. Never abandon your innermost thoughts, opinions, and being. God bless.
For listening to the Innermost Podcast. Check out new episodes every Monday for your weekly Monday motivation. Feel free to email your thoughts, experiences, and stories to be shared anonymously on the Innermost Podcast at innermostpodcast@gmail.com, and follow the Innermost Podcast on Instagram. As always, be blessed and live in the innermost.